Airtech Mod Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Star Wars Andor Season 1, Episode 6, and my thoughts on this episode. Disappointing. 3 episodes working us up to this one big episode. Nothing really happened. Okay, yeah, we had the big scene at the end, or at least at the beginning of the end. And we had the rebel attack itself. Other than that, nothing really happened. Disappointing. You worked this long to get us to this episode, and it was boring. I mean, I'll give the directors and the writers credit, because they do deserve credit for this episode. It was competently written. The shootout scenes, they didn't make the Empire look incompetent. They actually made the Empire look actually competent. Especially the sound. I mean, the communications officer. He deserves a fucking medal, that guy. But, yeah, dull. I mean, I'm not saying they had to go insane, but doing an episode that's just basically a bank robbery, I mean, there's not really much you can do. That's why I've said it's not a massive thing. It's not going to excite people. Don't need lightsabers. Don't need massively epic stuff. But this was just bland and boring. I mean, credit to the guy who plays Andor. He isn't shit. He's a good actor, and in this episode, yeah, he's still good. No problems with him. I like the character, and he was alright in this episode. There's no problems there. It's the cast around him that's shit. I mean, sets looked a bit cheap in this episode. There was one scene with a door that was barely, you could literally see through it, even though it's supposed to be a locked door. You can actually see through it, so it's not working right, or at least didn't work in that scene. There was also a mistake with the team, marching. When they turned, they hit their guns, and it was obviously a mistake that they didn't change in the episode. I mean, all you had to do was just, do the scene again, and it wouldn't look so stupid. I'm trying to find something good about this episode, because I don't think Andor's a complete shit show. I think the level of writing is good. The world building, I would agree, is good. They just need to fucking move along faster. They need to stop being so slow to do things. And it is gutting, man. I'm gutted by the fact this episode was boring. Because, again, I don't want to see Andor fail. I might not like Disney. I might not like Kathleen Kennedy. But, nothing wrong with the Andor actor. He has not insulted me. He hasn't insulted Star Wars fans. He seems like an alright guy. I don't want his show to fail just because Disney are a bunch of assholes. But this episode, it wasn't great. I mean, I want to get into spoilers now because I just want to get on with it. It's a 5 out of 10, if I'm being generous. Again, it's just a 5 out of 10. It was an okay episode, but again, expected a lot more from this. I really did. Gutted. Absolutely gutted. So let's go into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So, episode starts off with the group in their disguises as the Darnies, I think they're called. and they're going to walk down the mountain to the Imperial base. Andor has a chat with Nemik, or whatever his name. Yeah, Nemik. You know, the radical rebel guy. Nemik kind of has a conversation with Andor, says that he wrote about him in his book, or about, you know, should the rebels use mercenaries to help them fight the Empire. He's decided yes, but he's still kind of annoyed at Andor for not being a true believer. I mean, this show is kind of making the rebels look and sound like twats. I gotta be honest. I mean, if I was in the Empire, and the rebels have got fucking so much going for them, because the Empire is evil. But if this guy came up to me and said, "Do you want to join the rebellion?" I would say no, because he's fucking weird and insane at some points. And yeah, and I've got to be honest, this episode, you know, really didn't do any favours for him. Kind of just kept him on the whole crazy rebel line. So the group head down the mountain. We then meet the commanding officer of the base, who is, you know, charming a Imperial commander who he's trying to get a promotion from, telling them how the world works, how the planet is secure. You see the Lieutenant Gorn, who's also there, telling them how security is and everything, and blah 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 blah. And the commander of the base asks Lieutenant Gorn, "Is everything set? Is everything ready?" He says yes, and they're preparing for the Darnan's arrival. And the commander of the base says this is the last time they're going to come here, because what the Empire has done is they've kind of made it easier for the people not to bother to go to the sacred site, because, you know, the Empire want to build something special on the site. They want to build like a factory or something, and this religious thing is in the way. And so the Empire have been slowly whittling away at the Darnese people's ability to get there. But they haven't done it with weapons. All they've pretty much done is they've given them places more comfortable to sit and watch the light show. I don't know, I forgot what they called it. So, I mean, you're not really showing the Empire as evil. You're just pretty much showing them as they don't want to kill these people. They don't want to put rifles to these people. They just want to keep them away in a safe way. I mean, if you're going to make the Empire look bad, why not just say they force people not to come? They've kept stormtroopers around, or these Imperial army soldiers. And I'll give the episode credit here. They're not just using stormtroopers every fucking time. They're using Imperial army soldiers. And I liked that, actually, about the episode. You know, I'm kind of sick and tired of just seeing stormtrooper every fucking time. The stormtroopers were not the main army. They were more, again, Royal Marines or Marines of the Empire. They were on the ships and they did all the dirty work, but there was an Imperial army. So, credit to Andor for showing the army seems to be more competent than the Stormtrooper Corps. So, yeah, so the Commandant says they're ending these religious walks up to the base, and they just want to let them have their last hurrah, and as soon as this day is done, they're ending the ceremony. So the commander of the base tells the lieutenant to go greet the Darni, invite them in, and they're going to do a whole ceremony with them to help them, you know, celebrate their religious holiday. And so so the lieutenant heads down, grabs his soldiers, and goes to meet with the Darni. But he tells the commander of the base that he's brought in extra men from another part of the planet, and they will also be helping with the security of the Darni. And it is Andor's rebel group. And we then see Andor's group, who is being led by Terraman. I think that's what his name is, Terraman. And I was right from last week, because Sneaks tells Andor that Terraman used to be a stormtrooper. You wouldn't fucking know from this episode because he can't shoot for shit. But oh, actually, you can because he can't shoot for shit. So there you go. So Sneaks, or what's his name? Skeen. Sorry, that's his name. Skeen tells Andor about Terraman, and Andor's pretty much shocked by this. I don't know how he could be shocked by it because he's pretty much been shown that he's a military man all the way through. I mean, his drill, how he set up the base. I mean, again, I would like to know more about the character, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen because something happens later on in the episode. So, Terraman tells them to get ready. They've got into Imperial uniform. They're in formation. They meet up with the Dani. Oh no, they don't meet up with the Dani yet. They wait for the Dani. The Lieutenant Gore meets them, brings them up the mountain. Then Terraman and Andor and the group then form in behind the Dani to be the security force behind them. They then go down the mountain and go to the special religious spot, and they meet up with the commander of the base and the commander, who are both there to greet them, to help them celebrate their holiday. I mean, their religious thing. And you can pretty much tell the Dani don't like the Empire, at least what's left of them, because most of them are just not bothered anymore about it. And the leader of the Dani pretty much insults the Imperial, but Lieutenant Gore doesn't tell the commander of the base that. But they hand over pelts to each other, and then the Imperials just say, we're going to leave and let you get on with your stuff, and then they're going to head back into the base. So they do, and it turns out that Andor and the rebels are going to be the security team escorting the commander of the base and the visiting commander back to the apartment block of the... So they do, they head into the base. Then the rebels take the commander of the base hostage and his family, because his family are there also. They take them hostage, and in this scene, I'm going to give the writers credit here. When they try to take the family hostage of the commander of the base, the visiting commander grabs his pistol, points it at one of the rebels, which is Mimic, and does the best thing I think I've seen an Imperial ever do, which is he tells the rebels to release the boy. Doesn't say release him, doesn't tell them to put down their weapons for the Empire. He asks them to let the innocent boy go. That is insane to me. I can't believe that. They've made the Imperial officer seem like the good guy in this situation, because you have Skeen pointing an E11 at the boy's head, which is fucking out of order, if you ask me. And yeah, this scene, they've made the Empire look like the good guys. Not sure you're supposed to do that in Star Wars, but I'll give them credit for that. But then Sneaks shoots the commander, the visiting commander, and kills him. And then oh my god, I forgot Vale's fucking part, haven't I? So, not Vale, Val. So Val's part of the mission is, well, she needs to knock out the communication of the base. So her and her girlfriend swim over the lake, sneak into the Imperial base, manages to put a jammer on the tower, the main communications tower on the base, and jam the communication. But before she did all this, she did hesitate to start the mission as she was scared. I'm going to give the writers credit here, because they're not just making the rebels look like heroes, they're making them look like human beings, and I do respect that. So Val hesitates, but her girlfriend pretty much tells her to get on with it, and let's just get this over with. So she does. She tells Terraman to start the operation. Then they take the commander of the base and his family hostage, and then they force him to open the doors so they can get down to the vault. But he starts to say that they can't do it. But Val says they already know all the security measures for the vault, and they know that he can open it on his own. And they then threaten his family and say if he doesn't cooperate with them, they're going to kill his family. So he obviously agrees to help them. They then head down to the vault where there's a few Imperials there. They pretend to be Imperials again, and they tell him to keep his mouth shut. And then when they trick the Imperials to get into line, Skeen then points his E11 at them and tells them, you know, don't move, we're going to kill you. And then the commander of the base then tells them what the situation is, which is they're robbing us, don't fight them because they have my family hostage. And again, in this episode, they make the Imperials look competent and they make the rebels look incompetent, which is, I mean, well done for that, I guess. But yeah, so the rebels tell the Imperials they need to help them load all the credits onto the ship, and if they don't, they're going to get killed. So they agree, and they then force the commander of the base to open the vault. He does. He then tries to tell the rebels that he doesn't know how to unlock the rest of the vault because it's different locks, which has to come from the main air base. But they have charges ready to blow all the security protections apart. They do that, they blow them up, and then they force the Imperials to load the train ship up, which they do. And they force the commander of the base to help them load the ship as well. Whilst this is all going on, the communications officer of the base starts to realise something's going on with the communications. And again, this episode, the Imperials are competent. He doesn't just sit there muddling around with computers all day. He does that for a little bit, then he goes around, look, here's the, asks Imperial army soldiers, are their communications out? He looks around, he tries to figure out what's going on, and then he manages to pick up the signal that the rebels are using to communicate with each other because they've knocked out all the Imperials' communications. And this communications officer realizes that they're being robbed. He then assembles a security team and runs down to the vault to see what's going on. Again, this is so surprising to me because this never happens with Imperials. They're always made out to look like fucking morons every fucking time. And if you've watched Mandalorian, Boba Fett, well no, they weren't in Boba Fett, were they? Mandalorian, the Kenobi series, they made the Empire look like fucking morons. And in this show, they're competent. And that's what makes them more of a threat. So, communications officer takes the security team down to the vault, takes a bit of time to get there. Lieutenant Gorn then arrives down there whilst he's been holding off the other Imperial security and told him to go down the mountain to go enjoy the lights from the asteroid show that's going to happen. But he then heads down to the vault. He then starts to give orders because he's with the rebels now. And when the commander of the base realizes this, he pretty much calls him out and says, "You're hanged for this. You're a traitor." Blah 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 blah. And Gorn just like shrugs it off because he doesn't really give a shit anymore because, well, basically because he couldn't get a fucking promotion, he betrayed his men and his whole way of life just because he couldn't get a promotion, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, so whilst Gorn's trying to help the rebels load the ship, the communication officer arrives there with some troopers. He then asks what's going on, and when Lieutenant Gorn tries to bullshit him, this communication officer knows something's up. He knows this is odd and this is not normal. And when he starts to push, the commander of the base has a heart attack, falls on the ground, and then he realizes something's going on, and then they start shooting, and then Lieutenant Gorn gets killed in about 2 seconds. That's his entire role in these couple of episodes. He helps rebels get in, and he dies. Kind of boring. So the Imperials start to shoot. They start to the prisoners that the rebels had start to run away. They kill a couple of them. Andor then tries to get into the cockpit of the train to try to get it ready to leave, because they realise they're pretty much fucked. They can't take all of the credits from the vault, so they leave with what they've got. But then an Imperial jumps in the cockpit and tries to strangle Andor, and then you have Mimic. Doesn't really know what to do because Andor's being strangled. He can't get a clear shot, but then he manages to get a clear shot and kills the Imperial. Andor gets the ship ready, but they're too pinned down, so Val asks Terramin to give her cover fire so she can get away, but he then moves to a different position, asks Skeen to give him cover, and then Terramin gets shot and dies. Like that. Like, fast. Doesn't take that many Imperials with him, he just dies instantly. Disappointing. So Skeen then runs onto the ship. He manages to avoid all the troopers' blasters. He kills a couple of them as well. They get on the train. Andor then closes the doors, lifts the ship off, and then the Imperials then start to send TIE fighters after them. Which, by the way, these got to be the slowest TIE fighters I've ever seen. I've never seen it take that long for Imperial TIE fighters to take off that slow. We even saw it in Rogue One, how fast TIE fighters take to launch. Doesn't take that long. But maybe they do something slower here, I don't know. So the Imperial TIE fighters take a fucking age to get in the air. Andor takes the ship off. The ceremony then starts with the Darnese, who start to look up and see the asteroid light show. The ship and the train ship gets up in the air. They get chased by TIE fighters. And then when Andor pulls the ship up, one of the crates of credits, Imperial credits, then crushes Nemec, sorry. And he can't feel his legs, and he's pretty much in serious pain, and he can't move or do anything. But Val gives him some sort of medication that manages to settle him down a bit. She then hands him his special computer thing, and so he manages to steer Andor through this asteroid field thing. And whilst he's doing that, the Imperial TIEs get hit with a bunch of asteroids and then all die. And Andor manages to escape the planet with the with the credits. And when Val tells him to go to a particular planet, Skeen then tells him he needs to change course so they can get Nemec to a doctor to save his life. So Andor agrees to do what Skeen says and goes against Val's orders. They go see the doctor, and the doctor then starts to operate on Nemec, and then Skeen and Andor are left alone, and Skeen then does a fucking 180 and then says to Andor he's not really a rebel, he doesn't really give a shit about the rebel cause, and the story about his brother was bullshit. He just wants to rob the Empire and rob the rebels at the same time. So he offers Andor a deal where he says, we'll steal the transport, we'll take half of the credits we've got each, and we'll leave Val and Nemec on their own, basically. And Andor, pretty smart guy, pretty much sees that he's a bad guy and shoots him. I don't just think he did that because Skeen's a cunt. I think he also did it because if he's going to betray his friends, the people he's been training with for months, he's obviously going to betray Andor as soon as he can. So I think Andor just did the smart thing here and killed the guy who's obviously a worthless piece of shit. So Skeen's dead. Andor then goes into the operating room where it's pretty much announced that Nemec is dead. So that crate of credits killed him. And Andor pretty much says, listen, I just want to leave. I've killed Skeen because he wanted to kill you. I did you a favour. All I want is my credits. All I want to do is leave. That's all I want. I don't want anything to do with the rebels, anything to do with any of this. I just want to get my cut and leave. So Val agrees, says he can take the credits, but she also says that he should take Nemec's book about the rebellion. And Andor refuses, but she kind of forces it on him and says, listen, it was Nemik's last wish that you take the book, so just take it, read it, whatever. So Andor agrees, and that's it. Last scenes, basically, we're in the Senate, where the Senate find out about the attack, and this is also where Mon Mothma is, where she's also finding out about the attack being a success. We then go to ISB, where they're pretty much working overtime to find out how the fuck this happened, how the rebels were able to steal from the Empire, and everybody's going to be pretty much focused on this now, because this is pretty much an embarrassment to ISB and to the Empire. So that's all we see of ISB in this episode, which I'm kind of disappointed about, but there you go. We then go to Lethon's shop, where some woman's trying to buy some necklace, and then someone in the shop tells Lethon about the rebel attack being a success, and he goes back in the back of his shop and then celebrates, basically, because they finally had a victory over the Empire. And that's how the episode ends. Okay, it's not a bad episode. Like, there is good stuff. It's just, I would have wanted more, personally. I would have wanted a bigger fight, maybe a bit more explosions. I mean, I don't want massive, I just want a bit more exciting, a bit more speed, not so slow. But it's an okay episode. I think I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I'm going to change my mind on it. I think they did show the Empire as competent, and I think I'm just going to give them an extra score for that. So, a 6 out of 10. Andor's not a bad show. It's just, you know, it needs to be a bit bigger, it needs to be a bit more exciting, and it needs to be a lot less boring. And that's my review. If you like this review, give it a like. If you dislike this review, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing. Entertainment World Soldier. Bye.